What's going on, everybody? It's your homeboy Popular Video Games here, chilling out, maxing out, doing my thing. Welcome to The Flash Season 3, Episode 16, my fan fiction series. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more, and check out the other episodes in the playlist description below. Let's get into this. Now, the episode starts off with Black Flash running through Apocalypse while Darkseid is watching. He stops and removes the mask and breathes in deeply. I have flesh again. Thank you, Jesus. I can remember everything now. Caitlin, I'm coming back to you, he yells. Black Racer then runs over to Darkseid and says, I'm ready to return to Earth. Darkseid says, I'm ready also, but the force that controls you has been acting crazy ever since you left. We've had to fight skeletal creatures, and we managed to kill them. Black Racer looks up and says, you killed them? They're immortal. Nothing is immortal, my son. Darkseid looks at Black Racer and says, Darkseid contacts a scientist and he brings him the weapon. Darkseid says, this gun disintegrates them. He gives it to Black Flash and says, take care not to be taken back. Razor puts his mask on and says, yes, my master. Darkseid's technicians then break in saying, we have 5 minutes. Razor runs to the portal. Darkseid smiles and looks into the space of Apocalypse. Black Flash runs through and lands in Starling City. He looks around, glad to be back, and the first person he wants to see is on his mind. Is Caitlin. Moments before that happened, Barry is laying on the ground bleeding as Nyssa prepares to face Tony. Tony charges at her. She jumps up and swipes him in the back, chipping his metal. He yells, what the? How does that hurt me, you bitch? Nyssa says, I fought you many times, and I had a blade made that was made of stronger metal than you. You killed my husband, and now you'll join him. Tony laughs saying, haha man, I bet he misses that hot ass too. Nyssa throws 2 daggers at Tony. They bounce off and chip him even more. He runs and knocks the car over trying to hit her. The car actually hits the wall, falls back, lands at Tony's feet, and the shockwave sends him flying back into a lobby, but the fight continues. Nyssa sits there laughing at Tony. Tony gets angry, gets up, and manages to grab her. He throws her 10 feet, hitting a wall. Nyssa gets up and swings the sword. Tony grabs it and snatches it away from her. He jokes and he lightly smacks her, knocking her to the ground, bruising and busting up her face. She then throws a ball at the wall. Tony laughs saying, what, you missed? Tony then begins to walk towards her, but a force pulls Tony back towards the wall. Nyssa said, miss? Nah, the experimental putty works just fine. Tony says, what the fuck? Magnetic cells are all throughout this thing. You're done, Nyssa says. Tony looks at her and says, is that so? Tony then breaks the column that he was attached to and says, you need 2 things to hold me. This putty is useless on its own. There's no magnetics in the brickwork, you dumb bitch. Nyssa is shocked. He then hits Nyssa, breaking her arm. Nyssa runs as Tony's rampage continues. Now she gets her sword and has a brief fight with Tony. Tony grabs a car door, hitting Nyssa, breaking her rib and cutting her face. Nyssa's down bleeding. Barry saying, please Tony, don't do this. And then he looks at Barry and says, who the hell is Tony? And grabs Nyssa. He is about to finish her when he hears something and turns around. It's Firestorm. He flies in and says, I thought you were dead. Tony then looks and says, who am I? Firestorm says, come with me and you'll find out. Tony then powers down from his metal form, but only keeping the metal in his hand, so when he grabs Firestorm to fly off, he doesn't get burned. With the 2 gone, Barry can finally breathe easily. Now he calls over to Nyssa but gives no response. Now he manages to crawl over, stumbling to get Nyssa's earpiece. He then hears Rip in the earpiece. He tells him this is Barry and tells Rip the situation. Trough then sends 2 medics to pick both of them up. While they are riding, Barry says, please drop me off at Central City. Everyone looks around and says, sir, we're taking you to get help. Look at how badly you're damaged. Barry pleads, saying that it's pertaining to the mission. Please. Then one car takes Nyssa to the other hospital while they take Barry to Central City Hospital. They drop him off at the front part of the hospital and take back off towards Troug's base. Now, Barry calls Iris. Iris is freaking out and Barry says, it's okay. It's alright. So, what about that date now? Iris says, we do need to talk, so that sounds great. Hours later, Barry and Iris come out of the theater, laughing about the newest X-Men movie. Iris says, could you imagine if we were born with those abilities? Barry says, I couldn't. Let's just keep those freaks that have the X gene over there. We don't need any more problems. And they both laugh. Barry says, Iris says, see, I told you, you need rest. Barry says, I'm used to this. Healing. Well, I was used to it. Iris said, that's in another timeline. You're human like the rest of us. You need time to rest. As they are walking, Wally is walking with the Jesse unmasked, and Wally and Barry meet eyes. Iris smiles and says hey to Wally. Wally gives a mean look to both of them and walks in with Jesse. Iris says, I wish you two would get along. Barry says, I guess some things aren't meant to be. They both continue to laugh and walk off into the distance. Now, back at Trough, repairs are being made. Rip walks into a room where Cisco is meditating. Rip apologizes to Cisco for his rude comments. He says he can't fully trust Metas after what happened. Cisco says that Immortal is dangerous. Rip looks at Cisco shockingly. Rip says, how do you? Cisco says, another power I have. If I touch something of yours or you, I can see it. Like when I first touched your hand, I saw everything. Rip says his name is Vandal Savage. Cisco interrupts. Whoa, I remember seeing a guy with that name for Star Labs. He's running it or something. He's immortal? The worst kind, Rip says. Not like the kind off Fall Out Boy. That song was epic. Sorry, I try to get my mind off of troubling things, Rip says. Cisco says, I saw your family. They're not in this time. Rip says yes. They are with my mother. How much did you see? 4 events. The last is you fighting alongside heroes. No. Legends. Rip says, you mean Trough? Cisco says, no. Your team was small, but powerful. Cisco begins to make a portal. It's small, but he managed to stabilize it. Rip then says, I don't know anything about metahuman powers, how they work, how you guys operate. What I do know is the human heart, and I do know the human fighting spirit. And Cisco, or should I say Mr. Ramon, you have more of that than most of my commanders. I'm sorry about what I said again. Take your time. Like I said, I believe in you. And Cisco says, it's about time somebody did. And they both laugh. Meanwhile, Eddie assembles a task force. Patty and Eddie are the leading commanders. They're going to raid an abandoned building suspected of harboring EOD. The task force assembles into their vehicles. Eddie takes Patty with him. They get in the van and lead the charge. Patty kisses Eddie and Eddie returns the kiss. Eddie says, you better fucking make it out of this. Patty says, you too. This is for all our friends these bastards have put in the fucking ground. Patty yells. The task force arrives at the warehouse. Blocks away for surveillance. They wait until everyone went inside to raid the place. Through the window, through the doors, and through the back way, gunfire rained on the EOD, killing 53 and capturing 60. The task force cheered until a metal walked in. This metal looked at everyone and said, you're all useless. Hef will reign supreme, and turns into a gas cloud. The gas cloud is coming towards the task force. Terror is filled throughout everyone's body, but then the gas stops. The gas man turns back to his normal state and looks up. It's Black Racer. Gas man says, what the hell? The Flash? Black Racer looked up, ran, and cut right through the gas man's ribs before he can go into gas form. He falls and then turns into gas, but it was a mix of red and green, and then it went towards Racer. Racer dodges each of the gas man's attack. The gas man yells, nobody fucks with Mist! Now Racer thinks, this suit can possibly allow me to burn the gas by introducing an isolating chemical. Now the gas man turns back into human, partially healed. What are you, some hero? Black Racer then looks up, runs, and kills everyone who's EOD in the room and 2 cops. Runs back and says, do I look like one? Mist says, what the fuck do you want? To kill the Flash, he replies. Now, just to kill you. Mist begins to turn, but Racer stabs him 68 times. Before Mist or anyone knew what was going on, Mist falls to the ground coughing up blood. He looks up. There are spikes that come out of Black Racer's suit. Black Racer then grabs Mist and says, feels good to be back. Mist questions, what are you talking about? And grabs Mist even harder on the throat and says, let me help you understand something. This is a God's fight. We are gods. You weak shit should just stand there and feed us. You take orders from us. Just hide and cower while the gods do battle. And at the end, we'll come for you. You will be our servants. Remember that. You are nothing but fucking servants. The Mist then spits blood into Black Racer's face. He doesn't take kindly to that. Black Racer then rips the throat out of Mist, dropping his body on the ground, looking at the task force. The task force are too afraid to fire, and runs off. Back at Trop's HQ, lead scientist Curtis figures out the remaining factor for the weapon. It needed a power source that could hold as much energy as the Flash can generate. From his calculations, when they ran tests on that speed girl when she broke through the barrier, as well as Trop's checkpoints, we were able to accurately measure how much energy output she is pushing, and it was actually the similar output which was measured off of Kid Flash. Now, it would be more complete if Cisco didn't use that portal crap, he says. Cisco then walks over and confronts Curtis saying, "Excuse me? Portal crap?" Curtis walks around and says, "This is science. We have no reason for people who are a mistake of God to try to interfere with it." Cisco then grabs Curtis by his neck and slams him on the ground. Rip and the others manage to break them apart. Rip says, "Listen, you will give him just as much respect as you will give me. Understand?" Rip says that to Curtis. Curtis apologizes and then keeps going. The current power source cannot handle excess speeds of a speedster. We got accurate measurements from the speed girl when she ran past Trop's checkpoints as well as broke through Trop's protective barrier. Now, what we're going to need is a diamond. A diamond will be able to harness the energy and also redirect the energy output properly so it can actually drive the energy from Black Flash and get it into Barry. Cisco then says, "Well, if only we had a giant diamond, but sadly we don't." "Or something like it," Curtis says. Cisco then looks at him. Then Curtis runs to get an orb, which was a futuristic power source. It redirects energy for a more efficient light bill, Curtis laughs. Anyway, this thing can do the same thing as the properties of a diamond. They test it out, and the weapon activates. Curtis walks to Cisco and says, "I apologize for what I said once again. Let's get this work done and let's fight the real evil out there." They both high-five and get to work. Hours later, in another scene, Laura is seen walking to Hartley's house, calling him saying that she's almost at his place when someone bumps her. They both fall. Siren then says, "Watch it, bitch." Laura says, "Watch it, you." They both stop and look at each other. They stare, trying to figure out why they look similar. Siren smiles and hits Laura with a high-pitched scream, sending her flying. Laurel gets up and uses her scream. Black Siren laughs, saying, "Is that all you got?" And then hits Laurel with another scream. Now this scream actually cancels out Laurel's power. It also damages her collar. Now then, Black Siren walks up and starts beating Laurel in the face. Then she's hit with a certain frequency. She grabs her head, screaming in pain. She can't see where it's coming from. Black Siren then jumps off of Laurel, looks at the ground, yells, and is sent flying into the air. As Laurel looks around, she sees Hartley. He runs towards her and holds her in his arms, saying, "I'm glad I made it. Laurel, stay with me, please." Now, the next scene, at the exact same time, Vandal Savage is getting in his limo to drive to see Robert and Starling. The car blows up, and his guards are pushed to the ground from the explosion. They look behind them and yell, "Savage!" As they do, EOD runs firing AK-47s, killing the guards. 3 EOD members are shot dead. When the smoke clears, EOD stands victorious. They look at the burning car and laugh, but their laughs are cut short when a piece of burning glass hits one of their members in the eye and kills him. They look at the burning car, and there is Savage walking out. He's frowning and says, "Do you know how long it took me to order this suit?" The EOD members are gazing at Savage in horrific fear and begin to open fire, but the bullet wounds produce no blood. Savage throws 5 blades, killing all of the EOD men except the one who blocked the knife. It's a meta who can make glass weapons. He lunged towards Savage and Savage punches through his heart. Savage says, "There is a glass house joke here, but I'm too old for this," and rips out the meta's heart. Now the meta's heart does contain glass properties. Now Savage then calls Robert to have a helicopter pick him up. In a different part of Central City, Wally is out walking with Jess. When he gets a text on his phone, it's from Black Flash. He says, "It's Iris, I have to go," and runs off. He runs to the spot where he last met Black Flash. Wally says, "What do you want? I'm done with your bullshit. You nearly killed Iris." "Yes, I did," Black Racer responds, "and I will kill many more. Wally looks upon Black Racer's face and says, "Who are you?" Racer says, "Reborn and changed." And then he charges at Wally. Wally begins to try to run away, but Black Racer kicks him, sending him into the wood wall. He runs and grabs Wally, and Wally says, "I'll give you Barry. Just leave Iris alone, please." Racer says, "I no longer want Alan. He's no meta. I want you." Wally gasping for air, and then the Racer tells him, "My name is no longer Black Flash. It's Black Racer." And then Wally kicks Black Racer in the stomach and then runs off. Wally is chased by Black Racer all throughout the city and only manages to escape only by hiding in a department store. Black Flash loses interest and says, "I'll see you again wherever you are," he screams and runs off. Black Racer looks above at a plane. It's flying weird, he wonders. He sees it's actually chasing someone. EOD members have hijacked a jet and was having a firefight with Firestorm. The EOD members begin shooting the anti-tank bullets at Firestorm, killing 50 innocents, as well as doing major damage to the surrounding buildings. Now, Firestorm sees the two target buildings, Star Labs Weapons Works, and Queen's Body Protection Services. He gets an all clear from the Meta who was supposed to steal the plans, a new girl named Shadowcat. Firestorm then has the jet follow him to the building. He shows a fire blaze to blind the pilots. By the time they can see, they crash into the tower, making it fall on the other. Firestorm then fired at the gas leaking from the engine and blew up both buildings easily. Radio's back and flies off. Racer runs and sees where he's going, but he also sees the people that are coming out of the building injured. One of them is Caitlin. Racer in anger runs after Firestorm. Minutes after, in Hef's HQ, a celebration about the victory of the building explosions happen. Everyone's partying, even Grodd, until Black Racer runs in. The music stops. Every Meta looks at him. Grodd tries to mind blast him, but the suit's interference cancels it. Black Flash did feel the try, and 5 Metas charge him. They die before 1.1 seconds are up. Grodd asks, "Why did you attack us?" Racer says, "I don't know," and runs off, leaving the dead bodies and an angry Grodd. Guys, thanks again for watching. This is being Homeboy, Popular Video Games here. Now, this is episode 16 of my Flash Season 3. I apologize for the late episode. I know I said 2 every week, guys. It's just been a lot of craziness happen. Plus, I'm doing news videos now. Plus, I'm working on the Dragon Ball universe. Plus, I'm trying to get my Destiny content on Machinima. Then, I'm also trying to work on the Grand Theft Auto 6, guys. It's a lot. So, I really apologize that it took a little bit of time. But, guys, it was all worth it. Now, make sure to stay tuned. In 2 days, I'm going to try to get the next episode out. It's already written down. I just have to work on the visuals for it. Anyway, y'all, thanks again for watching. This is being Homeboy, Popular Video Games here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more. And Jesus, I think it was 18 minutes. Peace out and talk to y'all later.